Good morning to you. This is Marsupial Gamer. Hope you're having a great Sunday. I thought I'd just pop in here and talk a little bit about gatekeeping. What is gatekeeping, and is it occurring? Does it occur? Can it occur in the independent comic book creator scene? It's my contention that not only is there not gatekeeping occurring in Comicsgate, but that it simply cannot occur. So what is gatekeeping in my estimation? Well, to me, gatekeeping is really just a euphemism for anti-competitive business practices. What do I mean by that? As an example, back in the 90s, there was a heated competition between Microsoft and Netscape to make the dominant web browser of the time. Netscape was first to the scene with their Navigator browser, and it was for quite a while clearly the superior product. But shortly after Microsoft released Windows 95, they realized that this was going to be big, this whole World Wide Web thing, as it was called at the time. And there was some back and forth. Different versions of Netscape and IE came out throughout 95 and 96, and then in the summer of 1996, Microsoft came out with Internet Explorer 4, which integrated so tightly into Windows that it basically became an integral part of the operating system. And there really was no more need for consumers to spend more money and purchase Netscape. So the Department of Justice in several states, along with Netscape, sued Microsoft for anti-competitive business practices under the Sherman Antitrust Act. And of course, at the time, Microsoft truly was a monopoly or near monopoly. Really had the only vastly dominant operating system, and they had full control over it. And they proceeded to shut out Netscape by integrating the browser and using the APIs built into Windows to build a superior product that no other company could possibly compete with, because no other company had access, knowledge of the inner workings of Windows 95 and then 98 that Microsoft had. So they were sued, and I'll spare you the details. You can look that up if you don't know what happened there. Ultimately, Netscape, as far as I know, essentially went out of business. They got crushed. The lawsuit went on for years and years, and by that time it was kind of too late. So fast forward to 2017, 2018, and the comic book industry, and what we have here. We don't have a monopoly per se, but we do have what I believe is an oligopoly. A very small number of large companies, really 5 or 6 major publishers, and really only one distributor, Diamond, that a very small number of companies that control the entire industry from top to bottom. So what have we seen in the last few years as far as gatekeeping is concerned? What do we mean when we say there has been this very destructive and disingenuous gatekeeping going on in the comics industry? Well, as an example, one of the recent crowdfunding campaigns, very successful campaign, was put up on Indiegogo by Zach from Diversity in Comics, called Jawbreakers. And for those who don't know, it was a success. He raised several $100,000 for this graphic novel, and then he entered into negotiations. I don't know exactly if he actually had a signed contract or not, but essentially he was working with Antarctic Press to have them publish it through Diamond and put it in comic book stores. And that's really the only way it can happen at this point. You know, the industry's sort of created this pipeline where you have to go through Diamond, and really the only way to do that is to go through one of these existing publishers, very small number of companies. I won't go into too much more detail on what happened after that. Suffice to say that a key employee of another large publishing company contacted Antarctic Press and was very concerned, obviously, about who they were getting into business with. Clearly not the right kind of person, and scuttled that deal. Now that ultimately is what's known as tortious interference, a third party interfering with an existing business relationship. Whether or not there was a signed contract is immaterial. There was a business relationship, which was confirmed by both parties, the creator, Zach, and the publisher, Antarctic Press. And the deal was scuttled. It was ended. So what were Zach's options at that point? There were none as far as getting his comic book into stores. It could not happen. It is not going to happen, unfortunately. And that ultimately is an example of gatekeeping. You know, it's not the only type of example, but it is a textbook example. Essentially keeping certain competitors out for whatever reason, whether or not you know, the other person or company was concerned about competition. I don't think that was the case. I think it was simply dislike for this particular creator, this comic book pro. In other ways, gatekeeping has manifested by means of essentially not explicit but implicit collusion in hiring practices between the companies. And I think in some cases it's some of these companies agreeing with each other tacitly that there are certain people who are not the right kind of people they don't want in their industry, and then there are other companies, I believe such as Antarctic, who are simply bullied into not hiring people or not working with those wrong thinkers who are, you know, not the right kind of people. All of that is gatekeeping, and you know, to be more specific, to use my term, all of it is anti-competitive. It hurts the consumer, it hurts the industry ultimately, but it's a immoral, unethical, anti-competitive business practice. That's what gatekeeping is. It is an active or proactive act to prevent someone from gaining access to an industry or business for whatever reason. Now, the reason they can do that, as I said before, was we have an oligopoly on our hands. I'm not entirely sure. Perhaps it doesn't rise to the level of antitrust violations. I don't know what the criteria are exactly for states or the Department of Justice to get involved in something like that. I don't think that it's big enough to warrant that, but certainly hope that in cases of tortious interference that legal remedies are pursued. But regardless, that is what gatekeeping is. So can that happen in the independent comic book scene? Can it even happen? And I would submit that the answer is no, it cannot happen. It would be extraordinarily difficult and frankly would be extremely transparent. It would be very clear. There wouldn't be this back and forth. Is there gatekeeping? Is there not? Is this gatekeeping? Is that gatekeeping? What is gate? It would be clear. It would be clear. An example would be if somebody put up an Indiegogo project to make a comic book, and somebody on the Comicsgate side, the indie comics, called up Indiegogo and said, I'm very concerned. I'm sure you didn't know, but I don't think that this is the type of person that you really want to be doing business with. I'm really just concerned for your reputation, and you might be getting these mysterious other phone calls from other people. If you do, I doubt you will, but if you do happen to get 100 or 200 phone calls from other people that I'm sure you won't get, but maybe you've already had a few. I don't know. I wouldn't know, of course. I'm really just calling for my concern. The reason is because you've gotten into bed with this, undesirable over here, and I really think you should shut it down. And they would, and through this bullying tactic, they would shut down the project, turn it off. That would be gatekeeping. That is an active action that would absolutely constitute what we're talking about when we say gatekeeping. Now, what about, and I've created this obviously tongue-in-cheek graphic for this video because people have been accusing Ethan Van Sciver of gatekeeping, and of course I am not his white knight. When I see people being inaccurate, I may point it out, but he can certainly defend himself. But I thought it was just especially humorous to sort of meme on him a bit and talk about whether or not he is gatekeeping. Now his channel, his YouTube channel, is very popular. It's got nearly 74,000 subscribers, and he has people on his channel to promote their books, and other people he doesn't have on. And frankly, that's not gatekeeping. That is absolutely not the same thing. He has no obligation. Nobody, no independent creator, no business has an obligation to promote, what's essentially their competitors. Now, being in a creative industry, and I am in the game development industry, we tend to have an affinity for other game developers and comic book pros. Often, like to see other comic book pros succeed, and he certainly does. He likes to see, talented pros who are putting out good books that are entertaining, that fans enjoy. Specifically, people who do not shit on their fans succeed, and he very generously gives his time and his channel to promoting other books, either friends or, people that have shown that they have talent and, have an interesting project. If it catches his eye, he'll put them on, but he absolutely doesn't have any obligation to do so. And if he doesn't, that is not gatekeeping. And if fans say, well, I haven't seen EVS talk about it and he hasn't said anything, so I'm not going to buy it. Well, okay, well that's out of his control. That's not gatekeeping. Early on there was some disagreement because he said, well, I don't like this idea for a comic book, but he realized that was probably not the best thing to say, because he is certainly an influential voice, and I think that was resolved. But even so, even that really wasn't gatekeeping, because he has no power to prevent anyone in the indie scene from making their own comic. He can't prevent them, whether he promotes someone or doesn't promote them, or says he doesn't like something or he does. It doesn't matter. He can't prevent someone from putting a book up on a crowdfunding site, getting fans excited, making their own YouTube channels, tweeting and putting their work out there, and getting fans excited about their projects. And he said, and I agree, we don't want the kinds of people that are doing the gatekeeping on the traditional creator side. We don't want those people in this movement. We don't want people who actively attack their fans to be associated with us. But ultimately, if they want to put a project up and leave it to the fans, he can't prevent that. He doesn't have the time or inclination. I don't think anyone on this side, of this issue cares if somebody goes and creates a book on their own. Nobody's going to stop them. Nobody can. I really don't think that it's possible. It would take a lot of effort, and just really people who are trying to do their own thing, trying to be successful, making their own projects, they don't have time. We don't have time to fiddle with that kind of nonsense. That's just not what we do. And I've not seen that happen. If it happens, someone puts up a project and somebody, for whatever reason, tries to bully, Indiegogo into taking it down or whatever. Number one, that's going to be really obvious, and we'll point it out. But number two, I don't even think that would work. This is wide open. Anyone can start a business. It's entrepreneurial. Nobody can stop you but you. You're the only one standing in your way of creating a business. And that's what this is. You're creating your own business. If you're an independent, if you want to be an independent creator, you want to create comic books, you want to create games, you want to create, the next thinking egg, whatever, go ahead. Nobody's stopping you. Nobody's gatekeeping. Over here, it's free and clear. Everybody can do it. You may not succeed, and it's hard work. It's damn hard work to succeed. To build your own business, to build a following and get people to give you money for your talent. You got to show that you have talent, and you got to get your name out there. And that's up to you. That's not up to Ethan Van Sciver. That's not up to the Brightwisers. That's not up to that umbrella guy. It's not up to me. It's not up to anyone but you. It's your job. If someone else wants to help you, great, wonderful. Be thankful. And ask if you want help. You're trying your best and having trouble. Just understand there's no obligation. They have no obligation, and I'm just telling you, the best way to go about it is to be nice, understand if they say no, be humble and say, hey, I'm doing this thing with, can I, can I come on your stream, and promote my book? I mean, take a look. You might find it interesting. What I've found is that people, like I said earlier, creators love to see other successful, talented people succeed. We love it. I love seeing other indie developers make games. It's wonderful. I love it. I promote people whenever I can. But if I don't, if Ethan doesn't, if Zach doesn't, that's not gatekeeping. That's just, they don't have an obligation to do that. So, as I was saying, I don't think gatekeeping is even possible, sort of on this side of the issue, and I hope that clears things up. I'm sure there will be people who disagree, but ultimately, I see it as it's either an active or a proactive, specific action that where somebody scuttles a project that someone else was heading towards success with, and as long as there's not that action taken, there's no gatekeeping. There's no anti-competitive practices. It's just, everyone's got to do their own thing, and you are absolutely free to do whatever you want and create whatever you want. And I wish best of luck and success to anyone who sticks their neck out there, because it's tough. It's a very big gamble. But if you're determined and you're talented and you put in the work, it's a lot of work, you can succeed at this. So I'd encourage people to go out there and do it, and don't worry about other people not promoting you. That's not their job. It's your job. So go do it. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you listening. If you like videos like this, I'm going to be doing a few comic book reviews actually this week, starting with later today. And if you wouldn't mind just subscribing and hit that bell for notifications, that would be wonderful. I'd appreciate it. And you can follow me on Twitter. I'm Marsupial Gamer, and I hope you have a nice day.